Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Rusty Relic Auto Salvage. This morning I'm heading over to a buddy of mine's truck shop with our 12-ton wrecker. We're going to make it not a 12-ton wrecker anymore. We purchased a fifth wheel plate that you've seen in our skid steer video, and we're going to go get that installed and basically make a medium duty road tractor to pull one of our trailers so we can haul in more loads to the shredder. Make it a lot more convenient than using a rollback. So we're going to get heading out, so we'll catch you on the road. Alright, so we're back at the yard. I know some of you guys might ask why we're having somebody else do the bulk of the work on this truck. And to answer that is I'm extremely busy. We're in our spring rush. We have a bunch going on. I got to try to keep up on everything, and we're a little short-staffed at the business at the moment, so it kind of just adds more workload to me. And my buddy runs a truck shop, and it's just going to be way faster and way easier to just pay him to go ahead and do it. And then when we bring it back here, we can kind of do the things that we need to do that are little, that won't take me too much time, so that way we can get this truck back into service as quickly as possible. This actually used to be a 12-ton wrecker that we had when we were a towing company, and during COVID, business kind of slowed down, and we started getting more and more into junk cars. And after that, after COVID kind of went away and most businesses returned to normal, because we were still doing a lot more junk cars than we were doing towing, so that kind of effectively turned us into Rusty Relic Auto Salvage rather than the towing company that we once were. So we already had this truck. We could have went out and bought a road tractor, we could have went out and bought some other cabin chassis, but I know the history of this truck. I know exactly what this truck is capable of towing. I know it's going to fit the bill perfectly for what we need. We just need to get that wrecker body off, get the fifth wheel hitch on. We're going to end up doing a hitch plate on the rear and some other things, so that way we can have a very effective truck for our needs rather than what it was. And I know some people, they kind of like the wrecker bodies for junk cars. I personally, I'm not a big fan of it. I think the rollbacks are where it's at when you're only hauling one at a time. However, in our case, when we're hauling them, when they have no wheels or anything on them, it just doesn't make sense to use a rollback to haul into the shredder. So what I'm trying to do is make something that we can haul 2, maybe 3 cars at a time to the shredder. It'll save a lot of time, a lot of fuel, a lot of wear and tear on our trucks. So I'll bring you guys back as soon as we get something updated. Well, we're back at the yard now. Here's the old wrecker body, along with the tunnel box. We're going to get it unchained, and then for now I'm just going to leave it in our soon-to-be new tin pile. There's a couple things that I got to get off of it, like the winch that we're going to be mounting on the International. We're kind of basically building a medium-duty road tractor with a little bit of, I guess I could say, logging capabilities, because it's going to have a winch on the back, kind of like you see in some of the old 80s auto cars and whatnot. But anyway, we'll get this off. Alright, we got it set over here. I'm going to get the winch off of it, and then we'll get it listed up for sale. And if somebody doesn't want it in the next couple of weeks, we'll just start cannibalizing other parts off of it for other projects. Well, we're over here at the gooseneck trailer that we have. It's a 27-foot total length deck, including the dovetail, and it's rated for 16K. You can see it's a home-built one. It works just fine. But what I'm doing is I'm converting it from the gooseneck style hitch over to a kingpin style. I've seen a couple of adapters that slide into a fifth wheel hitch and then have the gooseneck ball up top, but there's a lot of really bad reviews about how sloppy they were, so I watched a couple videos and it did not look safe at all. And I'm a pretty big stickler on being safe, so it's got to be right. So we're going to go ahead and just spend the extra money, convert it over to kingpin style, which really wasn't that much more money from the adapter to just converting it over. So we're gonna get that part ordered, and then as soon as it comes in, we'll get it installed. All right, here's the part. And I'm by no means knocking the adapter. I mean, maybe some of the adapters do work really well for some people, but I just didn't want to risk it. I want to be pulling a pretty decent amount of weight, and I just don't think it's worth the risk. So, but this is all it is. You just kind of line up whatever holes you need on there and bolt it on up just like you would any of the other gooseneck style hitches, and kind of away you go. All right, guys, it's actually Monday morning. I went out after hours Friday night and picked this thing up from my buddy's truck shop. By the time I got back, it was actually dark, so I couldn't really show you guys anything, and it was just about dark when I arrived at his shop. So let me show you what we got. We got our hitch plate with a hitch, mud flaps, and then a Fontaine fifth wheel hitch out of a semi-truck, heavy-duty road tractor. And like the title of this video says, we were building a medium-duty road tractor. I realize this is probably overkill, but like everything else, I got a really good deal on it, and why not have the overkill? The plans at some point is to build a back rack that kind of goes up and around and what have you, and we'll be able to hang our chains and binders over there. And then we're going to mount a tank here, because again, this used to be a wrecker, so we'll have a tank across here at some point. And then we're going to actually mount a good heavy-duty winch. I don't know if we're going to use the one off of the wrecker body or if we're going to use a different one. But the plan is, when I'm hooked up to a trailer, whatever trailer that's going to be, I'll be able to winch heavier equipment, like some of the dead forklifts that we buy. Some of the forklifts we get, they're too heavy for the rollbacks we have. Some of them are 11, 12, 13 plus thousand pounds, and both of our rollbacks are only rated for 10. I realize I could probably push the limits, but again, I try to be safe. I try not to do things out. I try not to work my trucks outside of the perimeters that they were built for. So this way, if I have a winch mounted here, I can run the line all the way across, and I can hook some snatch blocks onto the top of the trailer, and I can use it to winch equipment on there like backhoes and excavators and whatnot of certain sizes. Obviously, I'm going to be limited on what the truck can handle and what I can tow, but I'll be able to get bigger stuff than I'm currently getting, which is something that I want to be able to get into and haven't been able to yet. So this is definitely going to open up a lot more doors for us than just hauling junk cars. And we'll be able to get bigger loads of our non-ferrous onto the trailer, because those can get pretty heavy if you start having 1,000-pound totes and boxes. You know, you only need so many of those before it becomes a problem. Space isn't the issue, it's, you know, weight at that point, which is the total opposite of me hauling junk cars. By the time I have them stripped out, they're really about 3,000 pounds, which is obviously way under what a rollback can handle, but I run out of space way before I hit weight. So but for now, what I want to do before we go ahead and put this truck in service, I want to paint up this frame real nice, get it looking good. You know, it's decent. This is an old 95 International 4700 chassis. It's got really low miles for the year. It's only 176,000. It's a 7.3 T44E with a 5-speed manual. It runs and drives phenomenal. It's an older truck like all the other equipment we have. And I need to address this cab corner here. It's actually pretty crusty. And it's starting to kind of do the same thing over there on the other side. And then I want to kind of blend some paint in here. I'm not a body man. I'm not going to claim to be a body man. Just like I'm not a mechanic, I'm not going to claim to be a mechanic or a fabricator or anything. I'm a business owner at the end of the day, trying to save a little bit of money, and I can make this look good enough for who it's for. It'll be fine. I mostly just want it to be strong and not continue rotting away. I'd like to keep this truck as long as I possibly can. My guess is I will probably have to update to a true road tractor far before this truck ever dies with the miles that are on it and how good a shape it's in. So, I mean, as you can see, it's an incredibly solid truck. It was well taken care of. It's just, again, for us, a 12-ton wrecker just doesn't make any sense. It might if you were using it for hauling old grain trucks and what have you, but there really isn't too many of those around here. Most people, they just use pickup trucks, 3/4 ton, 1-ton trucks, Duramaxes, and Power Strokes seem to be kind of the thing around here. There's a few Cummins here and there, but it's mostly Duramax and Power Stroke. So, and a 12-ton wrecker is just serious overkill for trying to tow one of those. It'll be just fine on a rollback. So, but without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get this taken care of. I also have some lettering that I need to do on the truck. So, we'll go ahead and get this stuff taken care of so we can get this truck in service. Well, we're making some progress. We got the old rust cut out on the outside. I got to cut out the inside, and then we can start making a patch panel and get that welded in. And over there I got just a little bit to cut out and just a little patch panel. Be a lot easier than this side. So we're doing a little CAD work over here. You know, cardboard aided design. Making the patch panel. Kind of the rough draft. So that way it fits into there. Go ahead and get this cut out. Well, we got it tacked in there. I got to finish final welding it and get it ground down and body prepped, and don't worry, I'll get rid of all that rust on that sheet metal. It was just a piece of sheet metal that we had lying around. I didn't see a sense in buying brand new for just that little section right there. But we'll keep at it. Really trying to do as much welding as I possibly can and straightening out as I go. I really hate sanding, so I'm going to try to do this with as little body filler as possible, if not any, if I can get away with it. Letting that patch cool down for a few minutes. You're supposed to let it kind of cool down so you don't warp the metal as you're welding it. You still got to basically spot weld all the way around it. And as you do that, it obviously heats up the panel. But like I said, I'm no body man. I'm just a business owner trying to save a few bucks, do the work myself. And this is substantially better than a giant rust hole that's sitting there. And the back of the cab used to flex a little bit, which now you can see it's solid. So I'm happy about that. At the end of the day, it's a 30-year-old work truck. I realize it's not going to last forever, so I'm just going to try to get as much life out of it as I possibly can. Alright, there we have it. Got a skim coat of body filler on there. Got the same on the other side. It's actually several hours past closing time, so I'm going to hit it first thing in the morning. Try to get here bright and early before anybody gets here and get this all sanded down and get it prepped up so that way I can hopefully get paint on before things get too hectic around here. Tomorrow looks like it's going to be the perfect day to get some paint work done. So I will catch you guys back in the morning. And we're back. It's the next morning. Let's take a look at what we got here. Looks like everything's ready to be sanded, all dried up. Cool, we'll get this sanded. I gotta sand the back wall the best I can. And then we're also gonna paint up here. I'm gonna try to blend everything the best I can. But anyway, let's get started. All right, it's all sanded down. I just gotta get it blown off, wiped down, get everything cleaned up in here, and start getting it masked off. Well, we're all set here. Got it all masked off, blown off. Got to do one final wipe down. You can see I got it all masked off over there. Same as the other side. I tell you, I can see why so many people put catwalks on top of the frame rails. For as much as I've climbed up and down off of this thing, it would be way easier. Put a catwalk up there with some steps on the side. I know it's not a perfect job over here, and like I said, I'm not trying to do a restoration or anything like that on this truck. Just trying to make it look presentable and a lot better than it was, and it will look a lot better than it was. At some point, we're going to run a big aluminum back rack on there that we can put our chains and binders in. And like I said, it'll have a winch right here and what have you. Anyway, we'll get that wipe down going, and then I'm going to go ahead and start mixing up some paint. All right, the paint's on. I got a couple of spots that I got to wet sand and buff out, but like I said, I'm not a body man, and I'm not doing a restoration over here. I'm just trying to make it look better than it was, so we'll get this finished up. Next step on the agenda is to go ahead and get these old decals off, and that way we can put our new business logos on. All right, clean slate, ready for the new decals. I think these will do just fine. Well, that one's on. Now we just got to move to the other side. And there we have it. We're all hooked up to it. I think there's nothing better to do at this point than go ahead and take a load in with it. All right, first load going out. They're both just slated for the shredder. No motors, no good parts left on them. These are the kind of loads that I would have to bring in one at a time. And the sad part is steel prices just fell again. And that car right there would probably be roughly 125, 150 by the time it's all said and done. And that would be a one at a time via roll rack over to the shredder. So that's kind of back to what I was saying. This is going to save a lot of time, a lot of fuel, a lot of wear and tear. And we're still well under the capacity of both the truck and the trailer, but we have more space. So at some point I'm probably going to step up to a bigger trailer, but for now this is what we have, so this is what we're going to use. Let's go ahead and hit the road. Well, the Maiden Voyage went without incident. No problems whatsoever. I'm sure this won't be the last you guys will see of this thing. There's an auction coming up here next week that I'm pretty confident we're going to get some things at, so we'll be using it for that. And there'll be a whole lot more loads heading to the shredder. So if you guys haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. If you like this video, go ahead and smash that like button and share with your friends, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Later.